Hey everyone! Today we're diving deep into a heated political topic that's been making waves internationally. Why Prime Minister Netanyahu cannot be arrested by the ICC? Here is the reason. Benjamin Netanyahu, the long-standing figure in Israeli politics, cannot be arrested by the International Criminal Court, or ICC. Let's unpack this complex issue and see what lies beneath. First, let's understand why Netanyahu is under the ICC's radar.
Moments ago, host of the 11th Hour, Stephanie Ruhle, spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and she asked him to respond to those arrest warrants. Take a listen.
My response is no different from President Biden, who said this is outrageous, and many people across the political spectrum in the United States and leaders of democratic countries around the world have called it exactly that. It's a rogue prosecutor who's out to demonize the one and only Jewish state. And he's doing that by first applying a false symmetry. He's equating Israel's democratically elected leaders with the terrorist tyrants of Hamas. That's like saying, well, I'm issuing arrest warrants for, after 9/11, I'm issuing arrest warrants for George Bush, but also for Osama bin Laden. And in World War II, I'm issuing arrest warrants for FDR, but also for Hitler. Thanks a lot. That's a false symmetry, and it's totally absurd. It's a travesty of justice. But the other thing he's doing, he's using also, Stephanie, just this point, he's using also false accusations. He's saying we're drying out Gaza. Drying out Gaza? We're supplying now, before the war, 7% of Gaza's water, now 45% of the water, nearly half, to make sure they have water. He's saying that we have a deliberate policy of starvation.
The main contention surrounds actions taken during various Gaza wars, where allegations of war crimes have been brought against Israeli forces under his leadership. Netanyahu vehemently denies these accusations, describing them as a bid to tarnish his political career. But here's a twist. Why can't Netanyahu be arrested by the ICC? Well, it's not as straightforward as it seems. Israel is not a member of the ICC, which complicates the legal landscape significantly. The ICC generally only has jurisdiction over countries that have ratified the Rome Statute, the treaty that established the court. This means that without Israel's cooperation, the ICC faces a major hurdle in pursuing any legal actions against Netanyahu. Now let's talk about South Africa's strong stance against Israel, and they are so bent in stop Israeli revenge against Hamas terrorists. This is rooted in South Africa's history of apartheid, leading it to be highly critical of what it perceives as similar policies by Israel towards Palestinians. This historical context shapes South Africa's foreign policy and its vocal support for Palestinian sovereignty and criticism against Israeli leadership. Lastly, does America support the ICC in potentially arresting Netanyahu? The US has a complicated relationship with the ICC. Like Israel, the US is not a party to the Rome Statute. Historically, the US has defended Israel on many international fronts, making it highly unlikely that it would support an ICC arrest warrant against Netanyahu. So, what's the bottom line? While the ICC might issue statements or even warrants, actual enforcement remains a significant challenge without the cooperation of nations like Israel and the US. The geopolitical chessboard is intricate, with legal, political, and ethical considerations all coming into play.
We supplied 500,000 tons of food and drugs, 20,000 trucks.
Yes,
We're fixing the roadbeds so those trucks can go in.
But we've already heard U.S. aid has said famine is present. We've heard from Cindy McCain, who runs the World Food Program, who has said there's massive famine there. Are you saying that they're lying?
I'm saying that Cindy McCain, unfortunately, is misinformed, and I'm saying that the facts prove otherwise. We flooded Gaza with humanitarian aid, but before that, we supplied it with more than minimal amounts. And we fixed the roadbeds, we fixed the border crossings to make sure that all this food and all these supplies go in. We've enabled airdrops, we've enabled maritime routes, we're building a port there. The whole thing of a deliberate starvation policy is ridiculous, and it's put forward by a guy who doesn't check his facts. He's receiving it, as do others, from the UNRWA and other anti-Israeli agencies and from Palestinian sources. Look, they said just recently that they discovered that, well, they sort of were misinformed, that 10,000 casualties that were supposed to be women and children, now they say, well, we don't know that.
On many international fronts, making it highly unlikely that it would support an ICC arrest warrant against Netanyahu. So, what's the bottom line? While the ICC might issue statements or even warrants, actual enforcement remains a significant challenge without the cooperation of nations like Israel and the US. The geopolitical chessboard is intricate, with legal, political, and ethical considerations all coming into play. Thanks for tuning in.